What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. Give you a quick overview of what really moved it and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So welcome to the 25s. New 52-week high was hit today at 25.25. Ultimately, SoFi did close 7.24% in the green, 22.90 the low, 25.25 like I said was the high, and 101 million shares being traded. 71.1 is the average. There wasn't any news from SoundHound today, rather it was Powell's speech. So in case you do not know, Powell spoke roughly at 9 a.m. at the Jackson Hole Symposium, and that was a big deal and essentially was going to allude to, in one way or another, a cut, a hike, or just neutral stance. And so ultimately, he kind of gave a little bit of red flags, but technically, based on everything, multiple times could be interpreted as cuts. And I highlighted a couple of the key ones that he did allude to a cut with. And the reason why he is going to be cutting is because of the labor data. And that's something that I've mentioned leading into this speech was going to be a key driving factor for him to cut rates, because the Fed's been somewhat satisfied with the inflationary data for the last several reports. It was the labor data. And I think in reality, they're trying to stop a recession. And that's actually what they kind of mentioned in this section right here on how it's going up and unemployment rate is going higher, kind of at a recession level rate. So nonetheless, though, I do feel like this is very good. Market does tend to agree. So it went from a 75 to now a 85.2% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. And who knows, from now up until September the 17th, some data might come in a little bit worse for wear, kind of reconfirming not only this, but possibly even justifying a 50 basis point cut, which might be too hopeful of thinking or wishful thinking, I guess, but nonetheless, pretty good stuff. Like I said, no real news from SoFi. There was a Form 4 that did come out roughly at the same time as I put out my video yesterday, and so it did show this individual, Kelly, did sell some shares, so 10,000 shares, and it was not for tax purposes. It was planned through Rule 10b5-1, but it wasn't for tax purposes. Nothing really crazy if you ask me, because they still do have 234,000 shares, so them selling 10,000 is not that crazy. I'm sure just to living expenses, but still, nonetheless, I'm not really too worried about this. Aside from that, though, shorts did something very surprising, and they did increase 1.03 million shares. So leading up to today, they were rather just timid. Yesterday, they increased a small amount, but still nothing really crazy to write home about. So them increasing 1.03 million shares, they are dumb as hell. And I saw some comments on my previous video just saying, hey, where is the squeeze? You have to keep in mind, whoever is shorting SoFi, I think I've kind of proved this enough, even when it was like at $12, $13, whoever is shorting SoFi has very deep pockets. I don't think anyone would be able to kind of handle the amount of losses that these shorts have done without going bankrupt. So of course it is fair to assume that it's big banks. They're kind of the culprits behind the scenes, or potentially indirectly some other very large entities. But them increasing, I think they're just asking for more pain. Aside from that, 9.49% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 111.67 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum back at being negative as per usual. So of course, I think you can kind of tell whoever is brokers and the parent companies of a lot of brokers out there, American ones. I think that is essentially who is shorting SoFi. But when it comes down to the options, $101 million in calls, 18 million in puts. 49% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. So not only did SoFi hit a 52-week high, but big money is assuming higher highs are coming. And once I go over the technicals, it'll make a little bit more sense. But today I did tally it all up. Ultimately, it was roughly, I think, 85,000 in the money options. So honestly, I kind of did a video and I went over best case scenario, and that was for it to close above 25. So with it closing at 25.02, like someone has a lucky horseshoe in their ass or something like that. But you have now 17,000 at the 25, 11,000 at the 24.50, 18,000 at 24, 12,000 at the 23.50, 12,000 at 23. Best case scenario played out. So all of that's going to need to be covered, and from what I can tell, there was some pretty big transactions after hours. So 7.5 million, so that was 300,000, 6.2 million, so 251,000, 8.7 million, so 350,000. That clearly does not jive and add up to the number of shares that needs to be covered. So most likely there's still about 7-ish, so 7 probably 1.1, 7.2 million shares that still is outstanding that does need to be covered. So that could give a nice push higher going into next week. As what we've seen, sometimes it's not always on Mondays now. Looks like there's always covering on Tuesday and Wednesday, but I'll kind of monitor a lot of the data points behind the scenes, and of course through that we'll be able to see kind of when that is covered. But like I said, best case scenario did play out. These are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market, so you do see some big ones here as well, which could be as well market makers. So 8.5 million, 2.5, 1.6, 1 million, 5 million, 3 million. It's just now this is normal stuff. 44.7, 1 million. So that 44 could be all as well a market maker. But generally, just quickly scanning through this, you see a lot of buying. So definitely good to see. Aside from that though, with it closing at 25.02, it is now trading between this R2 and this R1. So it was able to successfully get over that 24.64. And even leading into today, I said, hey, basically, dependent on what Powell says, we're going to be touching one kind of extreme of the spectrum. And luckily enough, Powell came out and hinted at rate cuts. So it was able to get above that 24.64. And even looking at this as well quickly, you can kind of see just the flow was insane. Overall today, there was $2.49 billion in turnover. So that was huge stuff. Very good to see. Algos were very much in force, but I think that really helped SoFi push higher because a lot of the algos were feeding off of the positivity in the broader market. Aside from this though, there was no new analyst ratings or anything along those lines. No articles really coming out worthwhile to bring up. So last rating did come out. It shows yesterday, but it was the day before. Tip ranks, and I guess through that IBKR is always kind of delayed when updating this. But like I said, no real articles coming out. And then on the actual chart, there's absolutely nothing negative to say about this. And I've actually been kind of rewatching my videos when I go through it. I guess it's SoFi is going so high, my screen cuts it off. So kind of funny stuff. So it's breaking the ceiling, which is awesome, a good problem to have. But aside from that, it's above all the key pivotal moving averages. And then stochastic RSI, interestingly enough, because of the last couple trading days, the negativity and the consolidation, it actually did kind of cause stochastic RSI to be somewhat oversold. So kind of crazy stuff. So honestly, SoFi deserves a round of applause. I see a lot of people on social media just saying 25 in 25, or like meaning 2025. So honestly, yeah, SoFi has gone through a absolute terror recently, and over the last 6 months it is up 60.9%. Over the last 1 month, up 25%. So I do still strongly feel that there is a lot more upside with SoFi, and if they actually announce, because keep in mind they have that in their back pocket, they've alluded to it numerous times, so it is coming sometime in 2025, but when they actually give the date of when SoFi Invest is going to get crypto, this stock will instantly go up like crazy. Hopefully they do it on a strategic, let's say very bullish day. But nonetheless, because of what Powell mentioned, I think the market's going to be really looking for a lot of the data, and ideally the labor data for it to be negative, because if it's negative, that potentially could justify a 50 basis point cut, and then we'll have a whole new round of a push higher. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals and day trades on stocks, options, crypto, and I put them out every single day. This whole week has been absolutely on point, despite a lot of days being very red and negative. Day trades have been on point. So worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.